the difference between marriages that last and ones that quietly fall apart isn't what happens during the big fights. It's what happens in the small, everyday interactions that most of us ignore. Let's get into it.
Let's get started.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Muslim Marriage Podcast, where we show you how to find and build a marriage that lasts as a Muslim. I'm Zahra Hassan.
And I'm AJ, and we've been married 4.5 years.
And let's get started. So this week's episode is entitled, "This One Habit is Quietly Saving or Destroying Your Marriage." Interesting. Intriguing. How do you like that title?
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I'm wondering what that habit is.
Okay, so let's before we talk about it directly, let's explore that a little bit. So this is the second marriage for both me and for you. If you think back to the moments of the highest tension in both marriages, what would you say works in this marriage that didn't work in the previous marriage? Like if you had to narrow it down.
Communication, willingness to communicate.
Okay, so just that's what it comes down to?
Yeah.
Where did that willingness to communicate come from?
I guess in my case, emotional maturity. I grew up.
Okay. And in this marriage, that's the reason that you communicate is because of emotional maturity.
Yeah, there's like I've learned from my previous marriage.
Yeah.
On like the do's and the don'ts. And like to also not go into debate mode for everything.
Oh, I see
right?
What you're saying, yeah.
Because I like to debate.
Yeah.
But some people just don't have that capacity to want to debate. Sometimes not at all.
At all.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm those people.
And so in times I'll end up becoming overbearing.
That's okay. So you're saying that it comes down to the willingness to communicate.
Yeah.
And I agree with you, right? But the question is, where does that willingness to communicate come from? And I think it goes a little bit deeper than emotional maturity. I think it comes down to trust, right? If you remember, like I remember I spent a lot of time thinking about this question of how do you define love? Right? Like romantic or otherwise, like how do you define love?
Yeah.
And I think the way that I define it for myself is trust. I think it's synonymous with trust. If you go to the bedrock of what especially romantic love is it comes down to trust and dependability. Yeah. So I think that whether or not you're able to communicate, you're willing to be vulnerable enough to be open during those very difficult moments when the tension is running super high and everybody's core wounds are activated, everybody's triggered. The frontal lobe is being hijacked by the amygdala and the emotional centers of the brain. What we're going to fall back on is, wait a minute, do I trust this person enough to lay down my defenses, to be able to relax enough to be able to have these difficult conversations, right? Yeah. So trust.
The way I define love on my end is comfort.
Oh.
Right? Because there are moments where you can trust someone and still feel nervous. And they're like, for example, you have a skydiving instructor.
Oh.
And they're diving with you. And you trust them that they're going to get you through this properly. But your heart might still be beating out of your chest. And you might still be scared, right? But with comfort, the trust is built in.
Yeah.
Right? Where y'all can both sit in a room and not have to talk to each other.
Yeah.
Where you guys are just comfortable in silence.
Yeah.
I think that's, for me, I think that's the essence of love.
Are you comfortable?
in silence.
All right. I like that how you said that as you brought the microphone closer to you. That was funny. That was an ironic moment. But I'm also comfortable. Yeah. So the question then comes to, well, how do we build this trust? Trust, comfort, how do you build these things? Because it's not something that shows up, right? Despite the fact, there's this idea that's being perpetrated by the media of love at first sight, or even for anyone who's experienced limerence or infatuation, where you meet somebody and you have this really big spike of attachment, emotions associated with attachment that is unearned, right? For a person who has not really earned that space in your life, in your heart yet, you feel like you care about this person a lot, but do you trust them? For most people, the answer is not yet. So how do you build this trust? Through a long series of moments where your partner showed you that you can depend on them, right? So a whole bunch of moments.
Yeah.
Some of these moments are going to be big, and most of them are going to be small.
Mm-hmm.
So you might have big moments, usually 2 or 3 times a month, where there was a moment where associated with high emotion, where you felt very frustrated about feeling overwhelmed, and you said this out into the air, and your spouse overheard you and went and took care of a bunch of things on your list, right? So that's a moment where they showed up for you.
Yeah.
So that might happen a few times a month, moments similar to that. Or it could be all the little small moments that happen a dozen times a day, right? All of the little tiny moments. And we're going to give these more examples of each type. But this is based on an idea from Gottman's book. And I know I talk a lot about his books on the podcast, but it's simply because I resonate most with his ideas, and because his books talk about marriage in a more positive light, and he focuses on what works in marriage rather than a lot of the books focuses on what doesn't work.
Yeah.
Right? So that's why I prefer his methods. But he talks a lot about this concept called turning towards your partner and bids for attention.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So every time all of these words are exactly what they sound like. So every time your partner makes a bid for attention, like from their part, they're going to make a bid for attention. They're going to ask you for attention in some way. What he suggests that we do as much as you can is turn towards your partner and respond to the bid for attention.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So the frequency with which you do that is really what is going to determine whether or not how much trust there is in your marriage, because it's those little moments of turning towards your partner and bigger moments of turning towards your partner when there's a little bit more at stake that are going to add up to this overall feeling of, yes, I can depend on this person, or no, I can't depend on this person.
Yeah.
Right. So let's go into a little bit and talk about some examples.
Before we go there,
yes.
Have you ever seen packs of wolves squaring up against each other?
Like in person?
Yeah. No, not in person.
Okay.
Like you're not actually there.
Okay, good. Yeah, I've seen the National Geographic videos.
Have you ever seen the male wolf will bond with the female wolf?
Yes.
And when they come across a foreign pack,
yes,
they'll do this thing where they bare their fangs.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that the woman wolf protects the man wolf,
okay,
right, is she'll tuck her head underneath his neck to protect that under neck area from an attack, right? And that's pretty cool that they have that instinct.
SubhanAllah.
Because the other wolf will likely try to go for the neck.
Yeah.
And so they'll protect the neck of their significant other.
It's beautiful. Like it's basically that concept.
Yeah.
Right? So it's that concept of what would well, in this case, the wolf, what would make the wolf want to do that?
Yeah.
Protect their spouse in that way. And what would make the male wolf want to protect her that way, right?
Yeah.
So it's mutual protection.
The male wolf is the one that's above.
Yeah.
Right? The male wolf doesn't go under the neck because the male wolf is the one that's engaging in the fight.
Yeah, he's attacking.
Yeah, he's the one that's attacking.
Yeah.
She's just making sure the other guy can't get under.
Yeah.
Right?
Plus his body's the one that's exposed.
Yeah. Yeah, he's the one that's doing the majority of the fighting there.
Yeah.
And this is why I could never get into the Twilight series.
Oh.
Like, I was so immersed. But then when the werewolf scene came up, when they were facing off against each other, that threw me right out of the immersion. I'm like, there's no way this is real. You know? There's no way.
But before that, you were like, all right, I'm
plausible.
buying this. Yeah.
No, it's plausible. Right?
Plausible.
But the second the wolf didn't protect the neck of the alpha leader, right? Because she was in love with him, remember?
Yeah.
The second she didn't protect his neck, I'm like, nah.
It's not for you?
They missed.
Okay.
They missed a mark on this one.
I think that was in the 4th movie.
They got to do more research on this.
So it took 4 movies. The first 3 movies, you're like, all right.
Yeah, the first 3 movies, I'm like, okay, it's far-fetched, but you know.
All right, I'm glad
Perhaps.
to. It's feedback. So if we talk about different examples of what turning towards each other looks like, right? So any listener of this podcast knows that I like to break things down, right? Like I like to put things in categories in order to conceptualize them a little bit better.
Okay, I'm glad you said it that way.
Okay. Was I going to say something else? Oh, break things down?
Yeah.
Oh, no, not that way.
Yeah, I like to break people down.
No.
I like to make them feel like they're worthless, and then I build them back up. But like for a couple of years, they're gonna think that they're worthless. You know?
Yeah.
Like I work very slowly. I'll attack you, and I will break you down.
My goodness.
Come back in 10 years. We'll start building you up.
It sounds exhausting. Okay, so I don't do any of that, but I like to break ideas down. And when it comes to turning towards each other, I like to think of them as direct and indirect bids for attention, right? So when it comes to paying attention to your spouse, right? So if I'm paying attention to you and the bids of attention that you're going to give me, some of them are going to be direct. And where these are the ones where you're going to be just statements that you're going to be making to me, right? And then some of them will be indirect, which are you're not making direct statements. It's things that I'm looking for in your behavior. Does that make sense? Okay, so with respect to direct bids for attention, some examples, if you remember that there was that TikTok trend of I saw a bird today. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
What's it called? The bird test. It's not really nice testing your partner, but it's interesting because of what I do to see how people respond in these trends.
I remember talking about that last episode, was it?
A few episodes ago, yeah.
Yeah, and then the one guy was like, F you and your bird.
Yes. I mean, it's not funny, but it was funny. So the trend was a person would ask their partner, would say to their partner, I saw a bird today, and then see how their partner responded. And the positive responses would be the ones in which the partner said, what kind of bird? They turned towards their partner.
Yeah.
Said, what kind of bird? Oh, what color bird? Oh, I saw a bird too. Like they engage with them about this bird. That's an example where they turn towards them. There's another test on TikTok that I came across. It's called the orange test. Do you remember
Before
that
the orange test,
Okay.
you know, the bird thing?
Yes.
They shouldn't say, I saw a bird today.
Okay.
They should say, I saw an African bird today.
How did you know it was African?
Because their partner could be like, what kind of bird?
What kind of bird? What kind of bird? All right. I like that. I like that one.
That's like if they're paying attention.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
You'll only make that joke if you're paying attention. It's a very easy joke to make.
Yeah.
You know?
All right. So sometime when I forget, we can make that joke.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so the orange test. So this test is actually thought to see whether or not your partner is willing to do acts of service, which is one of the love languages. But I think it's more a bid for attention, where the person doing the test is going to be saying to their partner, "I really want, I'd really like an orange, but I don't feel like peeling it."
Mm-hmm.
And the idea is to see whether or not your partner will peel the orange for you.
Yeah.
And now there's some really wild results if you look that up on TikTok.
There's two stages to that.
Mm-hmm.
The first stage, quite obviously, I'll let you take over.
I have no idea. You can tell me what they are.
The first stage is, will the partner even get you the orange?
Oh, yes.
Then the second stage is, will they peel the orange?
Yes. Yeah, so but the important thing is, like, when it comes to assessing whether or not their partner turns towards you, is that they're talking to you about the orange.
Yeah.
Right? So they're like, you're having a conversation about the orange instead of just saying, all right, that's how nice for you, and continue.
We saw an episode together where the one guy said, you're not that special.
Yeah, it got pretty negative pretty quickly.
It was weird.
Yeah, pretty negative really, really quickly.
Yeah.
But hopefully you understand the idea, right? So those are some examples from TikTok. So other examples from regular life. Okay, so sometimes, like, you'll tell me about the people that you come across, and you'll say, hey, this is something weird that happened at work today. And I'm not gonna lie, that happens multiple times a day.
Yeah.
But each time, because I know what I know, each time I turn towards you and I just say, okay, yeah, what happened? And then I work really hard to try to engage. So In Shaa Allah, like, that's the idea when your partner tells you about something that they saw that day. Another one that's very common is, hey, look at this meme, or look at this video, or look at this thing on my phone that I want to share with you.
Mm-hmm.
That could be in person, or that could be through a text message. And turning towards your partner in a real way is, you remember, like, sort of like when people were in the talking stage,
yeah,
right? And there was more butterflies and honeymoon stage, and there a little bit of anxiety of, do they like me? Did they not like me? So that when a text message came through, or they wanted to show you this meme, it was the most important thing in your life. You're like, oh my God, they remember I exist. Let me see what it is that this person is showing me.
Yeah.
And then 4 years of marriage in, when your partner or your husband or your wife is showing you, hey, there's this thing I want to show you, it's like, all right, this is interrupting what I actually want to do, but let me, like, it's a whole different vibe to it. So the idea is to try, like, to be cognizant, to be aware enough to try to turn towards them in that same energy that you did in the talking stage, right?
I realized quite early on in our marriage that sometimes there's too much turning towards. Like, sometimes you can turn towards too much. Like when you're, for example, on the phone, right? And you're trying to show me something. You're like, hey, look at this, right? Instinctually, just without even thinking about it, subconsciously, I would grab the phone.
Oh, yeah. You do that.
And then I would just hold it. And you'd be like, oh, let me hold it. Let me hold it. I just want to show you, don't take the phone.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. But, like, that's just that was subconsciously, I would just grab it.
Yeah. But it's like, I think it's adorable. It's annoying, but I think it's adorable.
Yeah.
But hopefully the idea is coming through. And sometimes one of these bids for attention can be a little bit more serious. It could be something as simple as, I think I heard a noise.
Yeah.
You know? Either partner might say that at nighttime, and then turning towards your partner is, instead of saying it's probably nothing, go to sleep, or is to try to go find out what it is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just those little things. They seem small in the moment, but what they do is they build up. Each time when you're saying things like, if you turn towards your partner and you say, let's go check it out, or stay here, I'll go check it out.
Yeah.
Or if you try to show them a meme and they say, hey, oh, well, let me see. Oh, that's so funny. Like, each time they turns towards you, what they're actually saying is, you can depend on me.
Yeah.
Or you can depend on me. So when that happens a dozen times a day, like 12 or 13 times a day, they're saying to you over and over again, you can depend on me. You can depend on me. Imagine over days, over weeks, over years, the message eventually comes through. I can depend on them.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So it's all of the, yes, exactly. So all of those little moments are going to add up into this one big feeling of I can depend on them. Go ahead.
There are some times that that can betray you, though, right? When you say, hey, look at this thing, it's funny, and the other person's like, oh wow, that's so funny, right? That's not the right response. The right response is
You know, that reminds me like when I went to school, I lived in a dorm,
yeah,
and I had the best roommates, right?
yeah,
One of my favorite roommates, she was from Australia, and she had a deadpan humor. Like she was hilarious, and she didn't know it. I remember she'd be sitting on her bed, and I'd be sitting on my bed, and I would send her a meme or something like something funny, and she would respond back, text me back. I could see her, and she would text me back, LOL, ha 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 ha, with a lot of funny things. And I look at her, and her face is just all the way like stone face. Just continue scrolling. I'd be like, you literally didn't LOL.
I can see you.
Yeah, I'm like, I can see you. And but no, it reminds me of that. But yeah, to try to engage with your partner, I think it's well worth your time, right? So that brings us to the indirect bids for attention, because those also happen a dozen times a day, right?
Yeah.
Basically, these boil down to reading your partner's emotional state, right? So it requires a little bit of emotional IQ, but honestly, just by being around each other for a prolonged period of time, you get to a point where you know how your partner is generally doing. Yeah. If you want to know, you'll know.
There's one surefire method to make an indirect very direct.
Oh.
You just say, "What's your problem?"
Yeah, I don't recommend that.
If they didn't have one, now they do.
Yeah, I don't recommend that. Instead of saying, "What's your problem?" it's better to say, "You seem upset."
What's your deal?
Okay.
That's when your wife is a salesman.
Yeah. So this is sometimes, like, I know I do this, right? Sometimes I'll be upset and I'll not want to burden anybody with it. So what I'll do is I will just feel or look like I'm feeling a little bit down. I'm not trying to look like I'm feeling down, and I'm just trying to work through it on my own terms. But you'll notice and you'll ask me, "Are you okay?"
Yeah.
Right. So those are the moments that that I'm talking about, because each time your spouse asks, "Are you okay?" or "Hey, you seem upset," what they're again saying is, "I'm here for you." And we also do this thing, I know I do this thing, where it's not so much as upset, but more like actually angry, right? And when you get a little bit angry, you're like, how dare they? How dare they be unaware of how upset I am and not be also upset, right?
Yeah.
It's sort of like that crab bucket. Like, I don't want you to be happy unless I'm also happy.
Oh, I hear you.
Yeah.
You know where I thought that was going? Was how dare they know how angry I am and not be running for the hills?
Right?
Yeah.
Similar. So what we do is, I know I do this, is like I try to be obviously upset, like performing a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then ironically, those are the ones you don't notice.
Yeah, yeah.
When I want you to know that I'm upset, those are the ones you just don't pick up on at all.
Yeah.
But again, this is an indirect bid for attention, because I'm not saying out loud, "Hey, pay attention to me." But I am saying it with my emotional state. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So paying attention, I'm being a little bit in tune, which is a whole nother episode that we'll talk about a different time. But being in tune with your spouse's emotional state is important, and is going to be crucial for being able to pick up on all the little bits for attention. Now, the idea is not to pick up on and respond to 100% of the bits for attention.
Yeah.
Because as human beings, we're just naturally attention seeking. That's our whole day. But to try to pick up on as many as possible, so that each day you go to sleep, the overall message was, "I heard you, I saw you, and I'm here for you."
I heard you, I saw you, and I'm here for you.
Yeah, that's the message that you want to send your spouse. However, when there is some degree of tension in the marriage, maybe people are still more in the newlywed phase, there's going to be times where you're in your marriage where you're going to start missing most of these, right? So before we get into explaining why we miss a bunch of bids for attention at times in our marriage, we're going to do a quick announcement for our single sisters, right? So for the single Muslimas, if you are serious about getting married, but you're not meeting enough of the right people, it usually means that you're not positioning yourself where the right matches can find you. That's exactly why I created a free challenge called the Tie Your Camel Challenge, 5 days to meet marriage-minded men. That's starting on May the 11th. I'll walk you through how to become more visible and intentional in attracting the kind of person that you want to marry. Now, if this sounds like what you need, click on the link in the description to sign up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So the question comes back to, why do we miss some of these bids for attention? Well, Gottman had an idea. He gave 2 reasons. The first reason is sometimes the bid for attention will come wrapped in negativity.
Yeah.
Right. So instead of asking the question, let's say I want you to wash the car.
Yeah.
I'll say, instead of saying, hey, could you wash the car?
Mm-hmm.
Which is, the requests are a bid for attention, by the way.
Yeah.
Like the direct request, can you do this thing for me? That is in the category of bids for attention.
Okay. Let me take a guess.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of that, you would say, how filthy. You're a degenerate. You're not washing the car. Get out of here. You got to move. You got to move out.
Actually, that's correct. It's a little extreme, but it is a bid for attention. What I was going to say is something like, you've never washed the car.
A single day in your life.
Yes, exactly. You never, and anyone who has ever looked into how to communicate with your spouse in marriage understands that the words never and always, it's important that they leave your vocabulary, because
those are very tough.
Yeah, because first of all, they're not true, right? And second of all, they're just, they have a profound impact on your spouse, and they're actually they're in the realm of contempt, right? They're in the realm of contempt. But yeah, so you never wash the car is actually a bid for attention of, can you wash the car?
Yeah.
Right. So sometimes he explains that if it comes wrapped in a negativity or a negative tone, that we might miss the bid for attention because we're so hurt by the negativity.
Yeah.
You see?
You got to remember, a relationship is not multiplication, it's addition.
Yeah, that addition?
Yes, because 2 negatives don't make a positive.
It's true.
Yeah.
Actually, that's exactly correct. If they're negative and you're also negative, it's very hard for that to come out as positive. It makes it worse. Yes. So it's then responding, if your spouse says to you, you never wash the car, right? Then immediately going to wash the car is probably not the best thing to do. At this moment, you have to address the negative. It's important to address the negativity and then address the bid for attention. Like both of them, there's 2 parts to that statement that need attention. Do you see what I'm saying? But it's important to be cognizant that sometimes that's how the bid for attention will present. Now, the second one I think is much more important and much more relevant to because he wrote this book a while ago, and much more relevant today, where he said, the second reason why we might miss a bid for attention is because we're distracted by our phones. Yeah. That's the general message. And I think that's correct. Like, because I understand, that everyone is working super hard, very long hours, sometimes multiple jobs. Everyone is exhausted. There's a lot to be worried about. And we have gotten very used to using our phones to help us to numb out and relax, right? Yeah. So, and the amount of free time that we have during the day seems to be shrinking year by year. Yeah. So that free time is becoming increasingly precious. So when we finally sit down, and you might be sitting down with the video game, or you might be sitting down to watch your favorite show, or you might be sitting down to, numb out with social media, whatever it is.
Or sometimes you'll just sit in the corner and stare at your wife.
Oh, that's so sweet. Wait, does that happen?
Let's move on.
Okay. Jazaa K'Allah Khayr, that's so kind. But anyway, when you are in this moment, we're very vulnerable to missing our spouse speaking to us. We might not actually hear them because we might have headphones on. Yeah. Or we might be so engrossed in what it is that we're doing, like especially if it's like a video game or a game on your phone, or just something that you're really engrossed in, you might miss it when your spouse is reaching out and trying to get your attention.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it will not feel like a lot in that moment, but those little moments where they're not responded to are going to add up. Because just like every time you do respond to your spouse, you're saying, hey, I'm here, you can depend on me.
Witness me.
Yes, but no, you can depend on me. Like I witnessed you, right? Each time you don't turn towards your spouse, what they're hearing is you can't depend on me.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's important that you can depend on me messages outweigh that you can't depend on me messages every single day. It's
every
really,
single day.
It's really, really important.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that it's important to be cognizant of the fact that each time that your spouse is reaching out, that you try your best to reach back.
And listen, some of y'all might not have the emotional capacity to effectively reach out every time they try to reach out. I'm going to give you the cheat sheet, right?
The cheat sheet?
The cheat sheet, yes. One person says, you're not washing the car, man. Like, could you help me out here? Like, why don't you wash the car? You say, and how does that make you feel? You know? Anytime they say anything to you or they complain to you, and how does that make you feel? That opens it up to one of two possibilities, right? And I'd say like 60% of the time works every time.
Yeah.
They'll be like, you know what? I had a hard day at work today, you know, or like I had a hard day at school today, or, you know, things like that, right? And it's like, yo, why are you coming to me about it? Oh, that's right. I'm your husband. Yeah. All right, let's get into this.
So, you remember there was that meme that somebody would tell a story and then the next line would be, and that's when the fight started. Yeah. I thought that's where that was. No, inshallah, no fight start. But I thought that's where that was going. So the next question becomes, okay, I understand these concepts, right? This makes sense. But then how do I start seeing these? Am I seeing all the bids for attention? And how do I start seeing more, right?
Almost assuredly, you're not seeing all the bids for attention.
Well, yeah. But yes, exactly. So then how do you start seeing them? Which is a wonderful question. I'm so glad you asked. It takes a little bit of practice. You have to train your mind, right? So it's sort of like that concept in coaching that for those of us who walk around with negative self-talk, or we're seeing the bad in all that we do, right? So a lot of coaches, to help you start to train you to see the good in what you do, we might tell you something like, every day think of 3 positive things that you like that you did, and that will train you to start to look for the positive things, right?
Yeah.
So it's a similar idea to that.
You just want to watch out for the ugly things you do as well.
Why? No, I don't do what ugly things.
The good, the bad, the ugly things, you know.
Don't leave anyone out. Okay. All right. So how do you start being more aware? Well, start with today, right? Each day, start with today and see if you can identify 3 bids for attention. Like all of go through the events of the day and see, let me just pick out 3. If whether you were able to turn towards them or didn't turn towards them, it's important that you don't judge yourself, right? Life is very hard. Life is very hectic, and most of us don't have this information until we have it. Like, this is all information that I found out after the fact. And as soon as I found out about it, I was like, oh, okay, let me start implementing this into our marriage consciously, right? So don't judge yourself, but try to look for the places where your spouse did do a bid for attention. Yeah. And try to pay attention to the place. Try to find 3 examples where you also did a bid for attention. Yeah. Right? Because it helps you to be more conscious of that. And then each night when you're going to sleep, try to identify just the 3. Yeah. And you'll by looking back during your day, you'll start to get better at recognizing it in the moment as it happens, right? Yeah. The second piece of advice of how to...
A legitimate question.
Sure,
sorry.
Yeah.
A legitimate question here. I know usually I joke. Is it acceptable for a person when they're asking for attention to just flat out say, this is a bid for attention?
Yeah, absolutely. Why not? Okay. Okay.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, why not? Because the point isn't the bid for attention. The point is whether or not your partner turns towards you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because when your partner turns towards you, they're gonna get the message. Sorry, they're gonna give you the message, I am here for you, right? Which is the whole point of this. So the second thing that you can do in order to start to have more, to be able to see more of these bids for attention and turn towards them, is to create opportunity. Most just because of the nature of the way the world is in 2026, both parents or both the spouses tend to be super busy, right? It takes two incomes to make most houses work at all. So increasingly, there's less and less time that partners have for each other. So it's if the two of you are not in the same vicinity, there's going to be fewer chances for bids for attention.
Yeah.
So it's important to try to schedule more time together, especially protected time together. And even if this protected time is just at the end of the day, in the evening before you go to sleep, I always recommend couples try to go to sleep at the same time, right? The evening before you go to sleep, try to leave out a block of time, a chunk of time where it's just the two of you spending together, just talking or just, showing each other what you want to show each other during the day on your phones, whatever it is, however you spend time.
Yeah.
But by having that time together, it creates at least that 10 to 30 or minutes or an hour, whatever it is, where you have opportunities for bids for attention.
Yeah.
Right. So those are the major two advices to help you recognize the bids for attention and to help you have opportunities to have more bids for opportunities for you to turn towards your partner after the bids happen. Hopefully that's all clear. It's not too jumbled. That makes sense.
You did a great job researching this podcast.
Oh, I appreciate that. Jazaa K'Allah Khayr.
Great episode.
Oh, thank you.
You did spectacular.
All right. Okay, I appreciate that.
You see how audience?
Yes?
You see how I responded to her bid for attention?
I didn't even pick up on that.
Yeah.
You're 100% correct. That's exactly what that was. All right. You did better than I did. I honestly didn't see it. That must be exhausting. I probably do that 100 times a day. My apologies. But again, hopefully that's it's again, this is something that's super small, and especially for those of you who are newly married or about to get married or even not married yet, right? It's really important to keep this concept in mind so that you establish this foundation early in your marriage. You make this a part of your culture early in your marriage, that if you reach out to me, that I will reach back, and that if you reach out to your spouse, that they will reach back to you.
Yeah.
Right. You can even just listen to this episode together, or maybe put up an edited version. I know I talk a lot, or just look up this concept and have this conversation with your spouse so that you're both aware that this is how marriages work. This is what the underlying dynamics are, and that investing a little bit of time understanding this concept can really make the difference when 6 years down the line, 7 years down the line, somebody loses their job, there's a lot of tension in the household, and you go to the dishwasher and it's full of dirty dishes for the 7th time, right?
Yeah.
And you just feel super unseen and you're just exhausted. At this moment, having that big feeling, like having that foundation of being able to have trusted this person up until this moment, is going to make the difference of whether or not you're able to go back and sit down with them and have a conversation for the 4th time about this dishwasher, given the overall tension in the household. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So when you said at the very beginning, what's the difference between the previous marriage and this marriage? And you said communication. That's going to determine whether or not a person is able to communicate, is whether or not they're able to trust them. Hopefully all that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So if you made it this far with us in the episode, Jazaa K'Allah Khayr, we really appreciate you choosing to spend your time with us. given that we know how busy you probably are. If you are a single woman and you're serious about getting married, the link for the Tie Your Camel Challenge is in the description below. If you haven't subscribed to our channel on YouTube, please subscribe to our channel. It makes all the difference. We all know how the algorithms work. And if you are married and you would like some tips for how to actually tips for some connection, some weekly, daily, and monthly habits for connection, there is a link in the description for the Healthy Habits Marriage Guide. That's also free. And that's everything. So Jazaa K'Allah Khayr. Have a wonderful weekend. Stay safe, and assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.